Okay, we're good. Hey, I want to thank everyone for being here today. I got my guest today is trained actor, trained ice skater, trained dancer, trained fighter, basically a Renaissance woman, a Swiss Army girl. I don't know what you'd want to call her.
Yeah, I
She's
love that.
the beautiful, gorgeous Lacey Kay. How are you doing today?
Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction, Lorenzo. I am doing really well. We have our coffee happening here. Hello to everyone from Toronto, Canada.
Mhm.
Um, I know I need to step up my energy drink game.
No,
Yeah, it's
I had some
beautiful
iced
day here.
coffee. I had some iced coffee there, and I was like, "No, I need a Celsius. This is a little too early for me for the start of the week."
Oh goodness. Well, thank you for getting out of bed for me. Um, um, Special. Thank you for
No, no.
having me.
Thank you for taking the time. And yeah, no, I was seeing. I was reading like your bio and all that. And you seem to wear like a lot of hats. In what you're going for in the industry. What inspired you to like go this route? Like, as was it as a child or later on? Did you want to be an actor, an athlete? Because I know there's a lot going on with you, like ice skating, like the training with the fighting and all this. There's a lot of you're trained in a lot of things, so I would know like which avenue did you originally want to go, and how did you end up where you are now.
So I think as long as I can ever remember, I loved performing. So the top thing for me, if my heart is in acting, that's my heart. As a child, I got offered by my mother uh, she said, "What do you want to do as an extracurricular activity? Do you want to do figure skating? Do you want to do drumming? Would you want to do like a sport?" So I said yes to drumming because my mom used to play drums. So I was brought up in a home that always had a kit. And since I was like, I guess there's pictures of me as like 2 years old on this kit. Um, and I think that's a pretty badass kind of thing in our family because it's very much a matriarch of drum. Like it's my grandma bought them for my mom when she was 14. They're like a 60s old pearl, beautiful collector's kit. I still have these drums.
Oh wow.
Unfortunately, they're in storage. And I do want to get back on them. It's just really hard in the city with tiny apartments to have that as your instrument that you practice.
Oh yeah.
You know, my neighbors, like they're not going to be super happy about that. But um, yeah, I'm talking about it so much that I need to just get lessons again. I want to get back onto that just to like brush up those skills. But that was kind of like a extracurricular thing that started when I was really, really little. And I'm so grateful for it. You know, some kids are like, oh, I hate how I had to go to piano class. Like, definitely hated having to learn theory and learn how to read the music. I was a person who just wanted you to play and then I would copy you. I was very much play it by ear.
Hmm.
So that is, and then figure skating. I don't even remember how that started. I think it was also just something my mom put me in, but I really loved it because it was essentially theater on ice. It was just, so I just so happened to gravitate towards the sports that are heavily theatrical. Um, but as a child, I came from a really funny family that really current, like humor was like a currency in our family. Entertaining each other was a currency in our family. We didn't have a lot of money. I didn't come from a lot of money. So I think it's a beautiful thing that putting on shows as children was like a fun thing that we did for the family, my two sisters and I. So I was kind of always like the snotty director of these shows. I, at a young age, had a vision and was very like, I guess I've always battled my whole life this perfectionist um, trait, which has
Hmm.
its pros and its cons. But to answer your question, acting was always a thing. Like um, the first time I ever had to face the fear of getting up in front of an audience was in grade 5. We did speech contest. and it was my first time doing a speech contest, and I decided to choose Shirley Temple, the actress, not the drink, although the drink is so awesome. I love imagine I did a speech on just the drink.
I'm sure that could be just as entertaining coming from you.
It'd be awesome. So I opened that speech up singing Good Ship Lollipop, and I ended up winning based on votes from the class, based on the mark and from the teachers, and that gave me this almost like a superpower feeling like, oh my God, I faced this super scary thing. I remember just being riddled with anxiety and wanting to freeze, wanting to run away, all the things
Mhm,
that still as an actor I face. If I'm going to go out, the nerves, they're real, they're there, but it's a really cool energy you can use for your presence and harness, and rather than be crippled by it. But I was like, wow, I faced my fear and I was rewarded that people like it. People like what I did. So let's keep doing this. And I think from then I was just like, I must do theater. I must. And so any chance there was in school to do a performance, I loved it. Like that was my favorite. I put everything I could into it. Wrestling, funny enough, I wasn't really allowed to watch it as a child. In fact, I my memories are always at my cousin's house or at families or friends' houses. I grew up in the 90s, so this was like such a memory for anyone who grew up in
oh,
the
yeah, me
90s.
too. Oh, yeah.
This was like the Attitude Era was everything, and in my opinion, it still is everything. But my mom was like into fashion, had 3 daughters, was like bought the Family Channel box before there was streaming, and was like, "That's all you get to watch."
Mhm.
So, violence and horror films and fighting was kind of scary for me as a kid. That wasn't like something that my dad like watched golf. Like I wasn't really exposed to some hardcore sports. Um, Basically my dad watched paint dry and that was the sport. But yeah. So I was the only person in the family that thought that was awesome. When I grew up, I being in the theater world got to hang around with a lot of other cool people and um, different types of performance, whether it's burlesque or people who come from like comedy scene, people who come from the wrestling scene, all these different types of performance and
Mhm.
sports. Yeah, as a kid, I was really good with the figure skating. I didn't continue because we didn't have a lot of money. So unfortunately, the reason I stopped honestly was because my parents couldn't afford to keep me with a private coach. And my family and my parents split up, and I it was kind of rough when that happened. So the drumming and the figure skating, everything kind of stopped happening. It wasn't, and basically the best thing I had for myself were the school projects and my teachers that I could grasp onto for the arts.
Mhm.
My parents were doing their best, but not heavily involved on those things. So wow, what a long-winded answer. I guess, the reason why, I guess when I moved to Toronto in 2006 to study theater, I started to be exposed to the indie wrestling scene here. And I was super, super, super fascinated because it's athleticism and sport, super challenging, super high, like heavily based on technique, but also at the same time heavily based on performance. And I thought it was wild because it's like a theater in the round. A theater in the round is when you have people watching from all angles. You do not
Mhm.
have a set perspective. Proscenium arch is what they call it in theater.
Mhm.
So it's really challenging because from every single angle at all times you have people's eyes on you. And on top of it, now we have wrestling that is now television. This isn't in the beginning of wrestling, there wasn't TV shows about it. So now you're simultaneously making a TV show while doing a live performance at the same time. It's fascinating to me. And the over the top characters and the creative, what is like the creative privilege? What's the word I'm looking for? Creative privilege or just like the ability to express yourself?
Mhm.
Awesome. Just awesome. I mean, just fucking awesome. So I've decided that rather than, and then, so before the pandemic started, I was starting to reach out to wrestling teachers to look for training. And there's a wonderful teacher in Hamilton, Ontario, here in Canada named Rip. And then there's Tyson Dukes from London, Ontario. And I had planned to train actually with Tyson. I did some classes with Rip, but I was having trouble with the transportation because I don't drive. But I said, "Hey, Tyson, I really just want to be a valet or a manager. Personally, I never wanted to be the wrestler. I
Mhm.
wanted to, I was, I personally always loved, and I say this pretty much, I always say this, anyone who's watched a podcast with me knows I love Sable, I love Tori Wilson, I love Stacey Keebler, I love Sable, I love this vibe. I just personally am like not ride or die with my body. I want to be an actor later in my life, like Christopher Plummer. I want to age well. So as a life choice, wrestling isn't the path, but the world is something I want to still be inside of because the show they put on, so awesome. I feel like there's a space for another personality. So I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm still trying. I'd love to be a valet manager. And so, yes, I want to train. Anyways, the pandemic kind of messed things up for 3 years of lockdowns here. That got put on hold. And
Mm.
last year was kind of like climbing my way out financially, mentally, and emotionally from that. And this year, um, I'm like, let's go. And so Dark Side of the Ring was an incredible, like, like that changed my life getting on that show, which brought everything I wanted, everything I was manifesting together. So I'm going to stop talking now.
Oh
Um,
no, no, I love it. No,
yeah.
I, it really is like ballet, if not just as difficult, or more taxing on the body. I mean, ballet is just as taxing, as well as ice skating, I imagine. You got to have ankles, man.
Oh,
Strong
yeah.
legs, strong ankles.
Yeah, I think like muscle has memory. I like because I just did so much dance training and all that stuff as a child. It's inside of me. Although it's a little bit dormant because I haven't been act like I have to be honest. I have developed a lot of trigger points and a lot of pain in my one hip. I mean, talking to wrestlers about body pain is like I might as well shut up because they're all like, "Oh yeah, guess what I have." Like, but I am they're just like broken. But I'm trying to heal something in my hip right now, so I am a little frustrated. I'm starting kind of what it feels like from scratch. I need to get back into some training slowly but surely. And being around wrestlers, it's just that much more inspiring. They're such positive people. If you've hurt yourself, everyone's like, you can fix it. You will fix it. You can do it. It's such a beautiful, like positive, like they're also crazy,
Oh
like
yeah.
destroying themselves and be like, no problem, we'll fix that. So but yeah, like yeah, speaking of ankles and strong and figure skating, I remember doing a figure skating competition where I couldn't do my skates up tight enough. They wanted them to be so tight because even in wrestling, you have these boots that are supposed to keep your give some, structure to your ankle.
Hmm.
And same with figure skating. I always wanted my skates to be so tight that it felt like they were a part of my body. They could not in any way wiggle or move. They had to be like
Hmm.
cutting off my circulation basically. And I remember I was backstage and I couldn't tighten my skates the way I wanted them. So I was kind of like on the verge of tears. And one of the women running the show, I was like, could you please go find my dad? He's in the audience. I need my dad backstage right now. I need him to tie my skates up for me. And she never met my dad in her life. And there's a whole audience of people at this arena. She managed to somehow find my dad. He got back there and did my skates up for me. But that's just to say that, yeah, that's a, you just mentioned ankles, and that was a memory that I had of that. Yeah, like I was always like an actor who if I couldn't find the exact socks that I needed, even the tiniest detail, I was like, I can't I was like I almost like it's almost kind of not good how obsessed I was with the details. I'm trying to like be more relaxed in my life, and especially in wrestling, it's taught me to be more like go with the flow and not and be able to be okay with not being in full control, because professional wrestling is heavily based on a lot of improvisation, especially in the
Oh
indie
yeah.
scene. So that's
Mhm.
like a total skill that I consider a fear for me. I don't actually like full blown improvisation, although a lot of my training is in that. Um, in the theater, we rehearse, 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 rehearse. I get to rehearse so much before I go out there. In professional wrestling, I do not get to do that. So this is
Mhm.
another fear, and it's another muscle that it is um, challenging me to strengthen. And I sitting around waiting for. I mean, theater in Toronto and theater in Canada isn't, to be honest, the most exciting thing to me. No offense, like maybe someone needs to like show me something that's cool happening right now. Luminato is a really cool festival in Toronto that used to bring in a lot of badass directors, badass work. Like I loved so much of the theater that I've seen in Toronto, like amazing things.
Mhm.
But companies that I want to be a part of, there's very few. Like the theater I'm interested in comes from Europe. So I would have to uproot my entire life to go there to continue working in theater that I am personally interested in. Um, so because I don't really the theater company I worked with forever in Toronto is called the Katazuki Collective. It's run by Tatiana Jennings, who is the artistic director of the Humber uh, Theater Performance School at the Humber College here in Toronto.
Mhm.
She's rooted from like the avant-garde experimental um, scene in Moscow, Russia in the 80s. Very cool woman. She was my mentor my whole 20s.
Mm.
What an honor to be asked as a part of her company. I was the first person in the school in like 3 years to be asked to be in her company. I was the only person in my graduating class to be asked. So it was an honor, and it was like continuing my training for my entire 20s. And even though the school was 3 years, um, it went on. And what I can say with that is that Katazuki, we in our last major show was in like 2015. It was like a 4 hour long Richard III. It was insanely, it was awesome. There was like a bunch of Trent Reznor in the soundtrack. It was really like industrial, like
Oh
heavy metal.
wow.
It was like a very heavy metal version of Richard
Uh-huh.
III. And my lady Anne was like, people either loved it or they hate it. She was very like, it was
That's a
very,
good thing though.
yeah, Tatiana, our director, was not making things to please people. She was making things to break cliches, really. And the best way was to take a cliche, like a play that everyone knows, that like a classical piece that is rich with structure, and then not worry. We would just like tell it with a different narrative. Our company was never obsessed with trying to create a new story. We were always more interested in telling the story in a different way. So we would always work out of classics. So we would do like Marriage of Figaro from Beaumarchais. We would do Richard III from Shakespeare. We would do Homer's Odyssey. We would do the stories of E.T.A. Hoffman, a 19th century writer. We always took classics that were like cliches now, and then turn them upside down. So that was basically the where I come from with my training. But because Katazuki is no longer working in live theater, they're working on a television series right now, which is just in the writing process. Um, I don't really have an outlet for live performance right now. I just don't. And professional wrestling has been that for me. It has like brought so much joy to my heart to be in front of a live audience, to be a part of this spectacular, over the top, wild, exciting show. It's I don't I'm not really a happy person if I don't have that in my life. And this
Mhm.
year, um, it started to happen. And again, what is my position? What is my role in professional wrestling going to be? If it's not the wrestler, I'm not really sure. Right now, I'm hoping to get myself more into the backstage interviewing positions just as a clear start. But my biggest dream would be to do one of these wild manager positions, because I really want those crazy wild managers like back. Like, where's our pallbearers?
Yeah.
Where are
No,
our sables?
it is a dying art, the
Hmm.
valet, and the I don't know, like I know I was gonna talk about it a little bit with the valet. They are kind of, I wouldn't say coming back. I wish they would come back more in full force. But you have like a Scarlett Bordeaux. You have, I think,
True,
Lana or CJ Perry just debuted on AEW.
true.
Women's
I know.
Wise.
I saw. I
Yeah,
saw. I
and I
mean,
was like,
yes,
man.
yeah. Scarlett Bordeaux and Lana. Yes, absolutely. Even Karen Jarrett, like
Mm-hmm.
awesome.
Mm-hmm.
She was like honestly my favorite part of the Double or Nothing this year. Like her coming in with the guitar. I I thought that was awesome. Um, but yeah, they are there, and I totally would. I only briefly like got to say hi to Scarlett Bordeaux in Mexico City in 2018. There was an Impact show there. I went down for the 85th anniversary for the CMLL, and there was a bunch of other shows happening that week. And that was actually the first time I ever saw um, Carrion Cross. I guess I don't know what he calls himself anymore. I call him Killer Cross. But
It's the same
this was
thing.
like
Yeah.
before they were a couple. And I just
Mm-hmm.
remember she was so stunning and striking and just like so much taller than I expected and so much more like she's, I think she's awesome. But that was my first sort of in person experience with Scarlett. And I definitely marked out. I think
Oh
she's,
yeah,
yeah.
like even if you don't know wrestling and
Mhm.
who she is, she can skip
Yeah.
a heartbeat. Like
Yes, she can.
she's amazingly gorgeous. No.
She's
Uh
awesome and a hardcore wrestler. Like she's badass.
oh yeah,
Um,
she looks like she could fight. You know,
mhm.
she's not I mean, I'm not saying you have the feminine weak, girl, but she looks like she could uh
Oh yeah, she can take a bump for
yeah.
sure.
Oh
She's
yeah.
tough skin, but yeah, I don't know. I still want to do. I still want to do that. Like I was trained in stage combat, so yeah, I want to get like nasty and do some nasty things, like drag someone by their hair across this room. I don't know, or someone can drag me across the room by my hair. I want to just. Uh, I'd love to just take a chair and just hit someone with it. So we'll make those dreams happen, I hope.
No, yeah, I feel like eventually, I don't know, things will get better. It all depends on how you feel about the wrestling scene nowadays, and that was some other stuff I was going to talk to you about. First and foremost, I did get to see you play, the Sunny character, like on the Dark Side of the Ring, the season 4. How was it to play like AOL's most downloaded woman of all time? And she's literally like the sex symbol, the awakening of a lot of boys back in my day, I'm sure including me.
I like your choice
How
of language there.
Yeah.
Awakening.
Yeah, my awakening.
Yes.
How was it to play her? Like, she's, I mean, despite what's going on now with her life, which we could talk about, but how was it to play her, to fill her shoes? Did you feel nervous? Did you you know like research and all that, and how was that to kind of like play her in that aspect?
Oh man, that was the best. I wasn't nervous at all because I knew that no other person should play this role. I just knew I needed it was mine. There was nothing about me that felt like an imposter. I knew that there was like it was my thing. When I saw the audition, because I saw it through an actor's online platform that we actors use with their agents to find jobs. I actually just left my agency from last year. And so the beginning of this year, I was like free. I was just by myself, not represented. Excuse me. Um, and so I kind of was just being my own agent. And I saw the audition and the fact that it was sunny, it was like, whoa, I feel like I manifested this. Like I got what I asked for because in 2022, I was I followed all the people I could from Dark Side of the Ring, the directors and everyone. And I remember they did a Instagram live later in 2022, and I jumped in on the live, and I was just kind of trolling the comment section, being like, "Please feature a diva, please feature like a one of these female personalities. I would love, you know." And then they did, although it wasn't the Sunny episode. It was more of the Chris Candido story that you couldn't tell without talking about Sunny.
Hmm.
Perhaps one day they get more when they get the permission to speak with Tammy, they maybe they'll do another part to it, right? Like a two-part thing. But I know that they struggled to get in, through the lawyers to talk to her.
Hmm.
So all of the voiceover they have from her is from past interviews in the show. But to answer your question, how was it to play her? I did. I literally watched everything. It was a pleasure to watch everything I could. Um, I read her autobiography, which is called A Shattered Star. I believe it was written in 2006 when she was in prison at the time. But it's a
Hmm.
really interesting read because it's very much her voice firsthand. You get a lot of autobiographies written by professional writers just using whatever the
Yeah.
person, you know, but this was very much her writing. And I thought there's so, I mean, there's so much that they didn't even get close to touching on in the episode. They didn't talk about her father, which is like a amazing personality and character in the story of her life. Didn't even touch on her dad. Didn't touch really on her upbringing, um, and the fact that she lost her father, who was the most important person in her life when she was really young on the road with Smoky Mountain. So this is the beginning of some trauma that does not get resolved. And in the 90s, there wasn't really a big talk about mental health, and there wasn't as
Of course.
accessible therapy. And even if there was, it wasn't really cool to do it. It was you know, you thought like, oh, only crazy people do that. In
Hmm.
fact, it's totally the opposite. The most healthy, powerful, and intelligent people I know do therapy. It is healthcare. But so I approached that, how to play it. It was an honor to be cast as her because, yes, in the height of her day, she was incredibly beautiful, incredibly talented, was amazing, amazing. Like my favorite is Sable. But Sunny had a totally different like energy, like almost because she was a cheerleader, she had this quality about her movement, and she was very good on the microphone, super talented with uh, speaking, and Uh, yeah, so yes, it's a super honor to play one of the like hottest, most iconic attitude
Hmm.
era, like 90s divas. It was also, I had the awareness of how tragic the story is, and how she's become such a villain. And no, I can't stand behind people doing anything to harm themselves or others, but I do look at this with complete compassion towards mental health and addictions issues. And that's what I want people to look at as the conversation to be had, not just, oh, she's a shitty, awful, horrible slut, that she has extreme trauma that was not resolved. And then in this world of wrestling, especially in the 90s, which Dark Side of the Ring really exposes, it's all just a, a concoction for disaster,
Yeah, no,
right?
definitely. It's and I was gonna ask you, do you think it was like the her partner or the business or herself? I mean, I'm not saying it's herself because she did have unresolved issues that, of course, were taboo back then to really talk about. But is this some sort of like even you being female in the business, is it a cautionary tale that you could like learn something from, like, okay, like I learned something from this.
Absolutely. Um, I think, yes, at the end of the day, we can point fingers at all the horrible, awful circumstances that we had no control of that happened. I mean, you can't, not everything is your fault. No, there's a lot of awful circumstances. We live in a really tough society and tough world with generational trauma, just like left, right, and center.
Mhm.
So no, it's not 100% her fault, but it is at the end of the day up to us to want better for us, to do the work for us. But the end, it was definitely not Chris Candido. Oh my God. In my opinion, he's just an angel. He's a sweet, lovely, just, it was like his strength in being a sweet, kind, wonderful person was also simultaneously his weakness because he did get kind of walked all over because he was
Mhm.
just head over heels over um, Tammy. Like he kissed the ground she walked on. He just was so loyal to a fault, but it wasn't him. It was definitely the business, the industry, and the expectations and just the era. It's
Yeah.
different.
No, it was
Um,
different back then. Definitely for uh females, and you were back then. It was all about sex, sex sells, sex symbols, and
well, I think it still is like that today. I mean, it's
yeah,
definitely
yeah.
definitely all about sex and violence all the time and entertainment. But sorry to cut you off.
No,
But
no,
yeah,
no.
today um, there's so much more awareness, and also everybody has a camera on their phone. You got to watch what you're saying and doing.
Yeah,
Everything's being watched these days, and I'm not that I support cancel culture, but it's it's happening because there's that much more documentation with people being able to, and it's actually like it's a great thing that people are watching what they say and do. But in the wrestling industry, I do have to say I do have firsthand experience with some assholes in the world who are very misogynist and expect me to just sleep with them. To be honest, like that's straightforward. That's in any industry. I think though, music industry, it's still there.
hmm,
You still have these, in my opinion, like low vibrational losers who are going to take advantage of women in the industry if they can. But then there's also really awesome, like beautiful, amazing people, and those are the people I'm grasping onto in the industry. Those are the people I'm keeping around me. Such amazing people in the wrestling world who I just think are so special. It's a world where if you were kind of like an outcast everywhere else, you're embraced here. You can be a superhero here. Your thing that makes you an outcast, that makes you kind of weird, like Andre the Giant, is actually your superpower. So that's really special. That's what I think is really special about professional wrestling. But yeah, I sometimes feel concerned that if I don't, you know, sleep my way up, then like, what am I going to do? But I don't want to do that. That's not the way that I want to approach anything I do in my life. So I don't know, just for women in general, it's kind of like unfortunate when a guy realizes that they can't get you in their bed, that they don't really want to be your friend anymore or talk to you anymore. And I'm just like, whatever. If that's going to be the way it is, then I'll find like it's just that the opportunities are there. I guess what I'm trying to say to like just like, oh, just like sleep my way into certain positions in this industry, but I am so not interested in that. Like I want to go to bed at night knowing that I do everything the moral right way that it fits well in my heart. I also have a partner and I'm very fucking like loyal to him. He's an angel. He works in the music industry, incredibly talented jazz musician, incredibly talented. And it's wonderful to have us not both in the same industry. The music is my heart. I wish that I had, in a way, I was talking about drumming. I really wish that I had continued more in that path. I hang
hmm,
around with some of the best musicians that exist, like the greatest musicians in Canada. I get to almost every single week hear them play here or be friends with them. Like I'm also heavily connected to the music scene, and um, anyways, I'm rambling, but yeah, I just feel like I mean, I think it was, oh my God, I wish I could meet Cornette so bad. Um, oh my God, JC. I want to get a bracelet. What would JC do? But it's like Jim Cornette. Um,
No, I
he,
love him. He's so he tells the truth. He tells how it is.
yeah, he doesn't gonna not gonna sugarcoat. He just is straightforward, like it or not. I really want to meet him, especially because he's the reason for Chris and Sunny. He's literally the reason they
Hmm.
are there.
Hmm.
I need to meet him, but he said in our episode, he said that he made a comment that the wrestlers had more sex on the way to the ring than he ever had in his whole life, which like hilarious. I love
Oh
him so much.
no, he's a
But
great
yeah,
talker.
yeah, that's still something that I see happening in the world. Lots of like personal dramas like that. Lots of people who are still like that, but I don't want to be like that, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Well, and you were saying
It's kind
earlier
of not
about
different today. It's
you
not
were
so much.
saying about manifesting, and I always say that too. Like, yeah, I think of all the, I'm not living in a girl's world where it's, you kind of have already at a disadvantage and an advantage. It just depends on the way you look at it. But you, oh my god, I'm losing my train of thought.
That makes me feel less alone. I lose my train of thought like all the time.
You're just like you're manifesting, these good things, and in the world there's bad people, but then there's also the good people that kind of balance it out, so it gives hope, like, to the world and to me, that there are still good people, as much as I'm like, oh, what is their deal, you know what I mean? Like, when I see a good person, I kind of like, I don't know. It's easier to know a snake because a snake will bite you, but people, I don't know. I guess for my mother, I'm more of a what's their deal? But then they end up maybe being a good person, and you're like, oh, there are still good people.
Yeah, I hear you. Like some of the most awful people can be the most charming, the most beautiful, the most liked. But again, that's in every industry that's around us all the time.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, I don't want to go around the world just being skeptical all the time. I definitely have my own trust issues as a woman in this world. Like your mother,
Hmm.
don't just
Yeah.
trust anyone. But I feel very safe in general in the professional wrestling industry. Through Dark Side of the Ring, I had the opportunity to start working with a promotion here called Superkickd, um, run by Chris Chambers, aka the Half Baked Kid. And I have to say that I felt nothing but supported, embraced, respected, and cared for by that promotion. And I really look forward to, yeah, I just really look forward to continuing to work with different shows. I'd love to be on a TV. Well, I'd love to work for Impact. I was trying to meet. I got to meet Scott Demore. Scott Demore, meet me. Um, but uh, the strength, my absolute strength, would definitely be for the television series because I totally understand how to work the camera, and that's
Hmm.
one thing that wrestling, I don't know, like it's hard because live shows never ever in my opinion translate well to camera. It has to either be made for film or made for theater. But it's like sometimes on camera, or actually not sometimes but always, wrestling is just, and we love the fact that it's just over the top and extreme and has this certain style about it. But as all art forms, like even as acting for film as an art form has changed and evolved throughout this past 100 years, I'd love to see that happen in wrestling too. I'd love to see promos and the the acting for the camera just step it up a little bit. I don't know. There's some people who are really great, like The Rock, obviously.
Hmm. Hmm.
Obviously, Dave Bautista is doing great as actors,
Hmm.
but There, I gotta say, like, not there's not a lot of great people who understand how to work for the camera, in my opinion, in professional wrestling, and everybody's trying to copy the WWE, and it's not. I kind of feel like it was so exciting when Robert Rodriguez did Lucha Underground. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but
I do recall that.
you had a real A-lister, like top, like fine art director,
Hmm.
director
Hmm.
who loves wrestling creating a show for us. I just wish that still existed because he understood how to do the whole um, film side of everything. He understood how to get like everyone to. I just want to say like act better for the camera. I just don't see. I just yeah. Anyways, I think there's still something cool. There's still like I know some really cool wrestlers in the scene who want to like start their own stuff up because again, like not everything needs to be like the WWE. There's so much potential in wrestling, even just as a live performance without the TV show, but as also a TV show, I'm excited to see something little bit different. I don't know. I'm hoping to bring that energy in there. I'm hoping to bring a little bit different quality and um, yeah, my strength would be in the film side. I just want to help wrestlers cut some sick ass promos, you know, like a Sable and Sherry combined. Like that's kind of,
No,
but
I
I don't know what I'm
completely.
saying. Is like there's something slightly missing there for me that I still am like want to see in the world. I don't know.
Well,
Something
yeah,
shockingly authentic or shockingly different. I don't know what it is.
and that makes sense from you being from both worlds. You see, well, I wish there was more of this, more of the acting in the wrestling, and more of the wrestling in the acting. So I
Yeah.
could see you being actually trained in both, to a point of college degrees and all that, that you could actually critique it and have some knowledge to it, to where it's like, oh yeah, no, I can make this better, if you had a little bit more of this over here or a little bit more of this over here, because like you said, a live show sometimes doesn't translate well to a camera show you know
Mm-mm. Oh man, that's like it sucks because I all of my work is in theater where I don't really have a lot to show. Sometimes we didn't even document the theater pieces properly. And again, even if we did just throw a camera in there and tape what I've done in live theater, it just doesn't have the same effect. It just doesn't. You'd had to
hmm
be there. Yeah. And
hmm
that's what's so cool about wrestling. You have to be there. It's a totally different thing when you're there. Um, but yeah, again, I don't know. Uh, but I'm gonna just keep trying because I feel like I've got the wrestling's a world that just keeps saying yes to me. And I feel like, all right, okay, let's just keep playing. Let's keep going. I don't feel like I'm clawing and like it's an awful experience. I feel like it's been a beautiful experience and I'm just going to keep trying. I, yeah, I met a lot of amazing people this year. And again, Dark Side of the Ring has introduced me to some people that otherwise I probably would never have had the opportunity to get to speak to so closely. People like Chris Jericho. I talk to Chris Jericho now, and that's awesome. Like
That's
he
great.
said, he doesnent have enough space on his next yacht cruise party, or not the yacht. It's like the big like boat cruise thing,
Hmm.
which is happening in January. But that he would consider me for a future one, and I'm holding him to that. Um, but yeah, I people might get their wrestlers may have their nose turned up like, ugh, what's this girl doing here? Like she didn't, work her way through the indie scene as a wrestler. But I'm like, yo, like I spoke whatever you were doing, I spent my whole life training in live performance. So pretty sure I deserve to be here. And let's not forget that it's also entertainment at the same time. It's a beautiful, beautiful marriage of sports and entertainment.
Hmm.
We need everyone here. We can't just have everyone training to be the wrestler. You're not going to have a show if everyone's a wrestler, you know?
No, no, like you said, it's a marriage. Like
Hmm.
it all blends together to make it entertaining for everyone, not just the wrestling purists, but anyone who just wants to watch the drama of it, because it is almost like a soap opera, and sometimes
Totally.
it's sometimes that's the best part. I
It's like a
it
soap
we
opera. It's also like rooted in like commedia dell'arte, which is an old, old, old performance style where you have like archetype characters and they travel. It's a traveling show. It's exactly what wrestling is. And I know there's some people who are like, I can't stand these like people who compare professional wrestling to fine art when it's like, it's like grungy, it's raw, it has nothing to do with being a fine art. And yes, yeah, there are certain parts, especially in the death match scene, that are totally like punk and like fuck you to like the fine art world and fuck you to like the mainstream, which I think is amazing, but also I also think that's fine art, in my opinion,
Well, then
performance
it's
art.
also your classic good guy versus bad guy, where it's almost like a comic book where you of course you have the bad guy, you want to boo him, you want him to get his comeuppance, and
Mm.
it's just a classic tale of good
Oh yeah,
versus evil.
literally, that is literally the theater masks.
Mhm.
Um, which is also the nickname is the socks and boots. You have the comedy and the tragedy, the good, the bad, the face, the heel. That's exactly, and the stories are uplifting and also tragic. So, yeah, the Sox were the comedians in the old days. That's how you could tell who was what. They were in like a softer costume, and then the soldiers and the warriors and everyone part of the tragic stories had like gladiator boots on. So you called them the socks and the boots, which is like the face and the heels. But this
Mm.
definitely is rooted in the earliest stages of performance that ever
Yeah.
existed,
Yeah, it's
right?
amazing that you could
Mhm.
almost like take wrestling all the way back to just
Mhm.
your beginnings of it's amazing.
Oh yeah, there's just for anybody who's like a full-blown nerd who is interested in uh philosophy, there's an incredible book. Where's my copy right here? Roland Barthes, Barthes, philosopher, wrote a book called Mythologies, and it opens talking about the opening of this book. So anyone, I highly recommend Bart's Mythologies opens with a chapter called The Ring, and it breaks down from a philosopher's perspective what wrestling is. And he, through the whole book, talks, and the whole thing's about exactly like this, like the old styles of performance and myths. But I think it's so interesting how he speaks about professional wrestling. And I highly recommend even just reading that first chapter and even the first page. Um, cool art.
Let me see if I could. I'm gonna see if
So
I
yeah,
could share the Roland
Barthes
Bar.
mythologies. But yeah, he is, yeah, read that book. He talks about wrestling in a really beautiful way. Exactly. That's the book right there.
Hmm.
Um, I highly recommend it. But yeah, the very first page opens up and he just starts the whole thing talking about wrestling, professional wrestling specifically. So
No,
yeah, if
that's
you want to
that's
geek out and like, that's the one right there.
that's so interesting. Like I
Hmm.
don't know, it just it makes me laugh that as a kid, is just into wrestling. Like, oh, cool, they're beating each other up, but then we get to this point where the curtains pulled back a little bit, we're more adult, stuff like that, and there's so much more to it than just Stone Cold coming in and stunning everybody and throwing the finger and all that. It's I don't
Is
know.
there much more? I think that's everything. Stone Cold doing that. That's it right there.
Oh
There's
yeah, no. That
it's just so awesome. You take the mundane of regular life, and it is skyrocketed in this like uh elevated, it just elevates life. It just
mhm,
that's that's the magic of going for me as a child, why I when I first started to go to theater shows, it I was on the edge of my seat. I was like not talking. I was the most proper little girl in the audience, just never took my eyes off the stage, didn't even want to blink. It was crazy to me how you could take a room and transform it completely so that, or even like the experience when you go into a movie, when you walk in, you're no longer thinking about your grocery list. You're no longer thinking about life anymore. You're completely transported into this
mhm.
totally different realm, and everything's just elevated. There's a magic to it, and then it's done, and then you're back to reality. It's just I mean, my whole life I've dedicated to the arts because it's been my greatest way to kind of like, not to say escape, but deal with the hard
No,
things in
definitely.
reality.
Especially with the world getting harder and harder and harder to deal with. With the internet letting us know every corner of the world, every bad thing that's happening.
It's
Uh
too much.
yeah, no,
It's
it
like
is way
way
too
too
much.
much.
I was gonna ask you about your Superkickd Pro Wrestling, the promotion that you're a part of. Uh you you're on there doing what, like you're an announcer and interviewer, something like that?
Yeah, so I know that Superkickd is really trying to push their media side. So I'm the first person they've ever brought in to do backstage interviewing. And that's been really fun because I get to work with these awesome wrestlers and cut promos with them. Um, but for the live performance, I get to co-ring announce and co-host with Jason Phillips, who's their OG guy. And he's got like that really big announcer voice that everyone loves, right? I
Yeah.
am trained in voice and I understand vocal training and technique and all the warm-ups and all the athleticism required to even sing. And you get a lot of announcers that like Samantha Irvin and uh, Lillian Garcia who are professional singers. Even the guy, what's his name, who does New Japan Pro Wrestling, like the most badass announcer voice ever. He's also in the music world. So you have people who are professional singers who can do this, or like um, uh, you have super fans like Justin Roberts. He's just a super duper fan. He just needed to get his way in there, and he's awesome at what he does.
Mhm.
But I guess in his podcast, in the Chris Jericho podcast that he does with Justin Roberts, he talks about this, and it's a fascinating podcast to listen to how he goes about ring announcing as a craft, and also just how he said like originally he started just pretending or playing the role of an announcer, but he found himself mimicking what had already been done, so he had to find his own way. And I think
Uh-huh.
that is really what it is. It's been done. Everything's been done. Like, just I think it's interesting to take history and then turn it on its head, just like I was doing with my theater company.
Mhm.
The classics are out there. The mythologies exist. The stories are written. It's already there. It's how we're going to tell it in a different way now. Um, but yeah, I love ring announcing. I'd love to continue doing it. Um, and yeah, I definitely study a lot. I listen to a lot of different, even like I'm starting to listen to a lot of UFC announcers and other sports too. And I actually really love the UFC because the refs and the announcers are so sort of classy, like not sort of, but like extra, extra classy and like extra professional. And I love the juxtaposition of that and the suits against this debauchery.
Mhm.
That's why I like Miss Elizabeth. She's all classy in this dress and
Oh
she
my
brings
god.
this elegance to juxtaposition the violence that is also taking place simultaneously. It's really great because it can't all just be one note of just like violence, violence, violence. That's why I love certain wrestlers that are just like doing their own thing, like Joe Hendry. Do you know Joe Henry?
I don't.
Holy
No, that
shit.
name doesn't ring a bell.
He's so fucking good. He's my language. He's on the Impact roster and he's a breath of fresh air. He's not doing what everyone else is doing. He's like a black belt. I think he's from Scotland. He's a badass athlete and wrestler, but he's also like musically talented, writes music for other wrestlers, writes his own entrance music. Like he's just a breath of fresh air. RJ City, shout out to RJ City, really close friend of mine. Also a breath of fresh air in the world, bringing a totally different energy that has like a positive quality to it because it can't all be kill, 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 death, death, death. Like you do not appreciate dark without a lightness to compare it to. You have to
Hmm.
have the black, the white, the juxtaposition of the light and the dark. Yeah, I believe in Joe Henry. He knows I'm a super fan too. But man, I am like, he gets me out of my seat. He gets me right up, just like marking out, freaking out. His new tag team, Joya, is oh my lord. I just highly recommend anybody looking up some of go watch Joe Hendry. Just go watch. What am I looking for here? But yeah, so Joya is Yuya, and excuse me if I'm pronouncing this wrong, and please definitely someone correct me. I feel bad, but Yuya Uyamara, Uyamara,
Hmm.
Yuya Uyamara, incredible wrestler, also on the Impact roster. Joe Hendry and Yuya together are called Joya,
That works. Okay.
and I highly recommend anybody watching this. You want to see Joya, you want to see this. This is all I'm going to tell you. It's amazing. They got, so Impact was here for 2 nights back to back last weekend
Mm.
um, here in Toronto. And Joya got the biggest holy shit of the entire evening before they before they even started their match. It was based on their entrance alone. They had the crowd. They had everyone freaking out based just on their entrance. So this is what I like to see. I find it refreshing and different.
Oh no, it's great, especially like nowadays when it's I don't know, it's hard to get over like with you have some people on AEW getting over on their own, but then WWE who's trying to push certain people, but some people like LA Knight, let's say, they're getting over. It's just they don't. I don't know. It's not part of their agenda or something. Whatever WWE might be.
Oh yeah, I think people gotta like wrestlers in the indie scene. Oh man, the air show's starting here. If it gets loud, you start hearing like some Top Gun airplanes happening. Right now here in Toronto, there's a big air show happening today, and I can hear it. I live down where it's happening, so if it gets really loud, we might just have to end this.
Oh, you're good.
Tom Cruise is
You're
flying
safe
around.
though. You're safe
Okay,
though, right? It's nothing
yeah.
like okay.
But it sounds like, honestly, a lot of people are against the air show here because it actually does sound like a war is happening outside. It's
Hmm.
actually quite triggering for people who have gone through experiences like that. But yeah, I can hear it starting. So, anyways, to go back to, yeah, I feel like you just gotta move differently, be different. Do like everyone's trying to just like be what WWE's doing.
Hmm.
There's another, I'm going to also do a shout out to Sam Adonis. This is Corey Graves' brother, who's
Hmm.
big in the Triple A, like big in the lucha scene in Mexico. Such an incredible wrestler, such an incredible heel, so refreshing. Highly recommend anybody following Sam Adonis. Follow this guy. He is top tier star material and doing it completely different. Has a excellent mic skills. He's a heel that you love. Like Sam Adonis comes
Mm.
out. He does a lot of the Demand Lucha shows here in Toronto. Also, just again, like really interesting person to talk to because his ideas and like uh, men like thoughts around what professional wrestling is also like very similar to mine. Because he really appreciates the art of performance and the theatric quality as well. And I feel like a lot of indie wrestlers in the indie scene are just obsessed with showing off their technique and these ridiculous sequences of movements that just like don't really make a lot of sense just to prove how technical. Yeah, Sam Madonna is so great. Oh man, this another person I think is just so exciting and different, moves different, talks different, does everything different. Um, Amazing heel, this guy here. Uh, I think he needs to run his own show. I know he's talked about he wants to get the funding to create his own promotion. He absolutely, I think any millionaires listening need to give him money to make his own thing because I want to see that. I want to see whatever company he makes because he's got like the big picture director mentality as well. He's
Oh,
not
really?
just a wrestler. Like he could
Mhm.
totally run an entire promotion and it would be the most interesting and fresh and new. So he needs to get funding ASAP for that. Um, but man, I'm also losing my train of thought. But yeah,
Well,
the indie scene is obsessed with. That's what I was saying. They're obsessed with showing off their technique and their technical flips and skills, and that's great and everything. But they're not putting enough work into their character, their promos, what makes them walk and talk and move different.
yeah, the
That's what Sam Adonis is doing,
the
and it's very
motivation,
good.
and
Mhm.
I wanted to kind of like touch on that. I know on the Twitter the other day I had saw you tweet about you know these wrestlers kind of like how you just said not putting in the effort. They just kind of show
Well,
up.
they're
They
putting
think,
in effort. I mean, they're really, really getting wild there with all their tricks and skills and technique. I feel like that's effort. Sorry to cut you off, but
no,
the focus, I don't think is uh, needs to be that. Like you have the technique. The focus needs to be like your performance side.
yeah, and I know you were saying you personally don't want to go the route of being a professional wrestler, but you are trained in all of that, which goes to show you do care about the business. Whereas you have, some of these quote unquote, wrestlers who want to kind of fast track their way in. Like well, I was talking to you the other day, like they think they could take a light bulb or they know how to do
Yeah.
like a super kick, and it's like, oh, I'm a wrestler now.
Mm-hmm.
Or I wear a luchador mask. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a wrestler now.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of like pushed you to voice your thoughts on that, and what would you say to like someone who wants to try to fast track their way, or kind of uh expedite it, you know what I mean, like
Yeah.
go the short route.
Well, I'm kind of like Jim Cornette in a way where I'm just gonna say how I feel. I don't really have to think too much about. Maybe I need to think a little more before I just voice my opinions. But it's my social media. If you follow me, you're just gonna get what I my opinions.
Yeah,
If
no,
you
of
don't like
course.
them, don't follow me. But yeah, I do critique performance because that's what I do. I even critique the fashions, the style. Like I think your whole style needs to be awesome as well. Like you can have technique, but you could also just dress like you don't even have your look. Like Stone Cold when he went from Hollywood blonde to the Stone Cold we know, game changer. That was his
Hmm.
look, right?
Hmm.
Um I what was I answering again?
Well, it's like I know you are trained in that, like the acting, the wrestling. You really put in the hours to actually care about it, so I feel like you have a little bit more say to critique these wrestlers. Again, I say quote unquote wrestlers who want to come in and kind of fast
Oh,
track
right.
their way, yeah,
Yes.
to the
Sorry,
to the
that's what we
business.
were talking about. Yeah, I think because I've watched so much indie wrestling since like long before the pandemic. Actually, I think it's amazing. In the past 5 years, there's been such a renaissance. Ever since AEW started in 2018, it's been new wrestling fans are popping up left, right, and center, and I absolutely love it. I'm seeing people who kind of liked it, they're getting back into it, grew up with it, but never really, but then are now getting back into it. Like at the Impact show the other last week, there was a couple guys sitting near me who this was like their second show, but they remember it from childhood. But there's a lot of new found born again fans,
Mhm,
which is
mhm,
awesome. But because I've seen so much, I don't know, it's like there's good and bad in every indie scene. Some of the best musicians you're ever going to hear are going to be in the indie scene. Also, there's
mhm,
going to be a lot of trash too. That's
mhm,
just like the professional wrestling. So the greatest, like Sam Adonis, should be famous and he should be literally running his own show, but he's not on WWE, so mainstream doesn't really, it's not a household name. But again, an example of people in the indie scene that are incredible. But yeah, then there's also shit, and I just critique because I can't help it. I watch a live show, and because I know what it is to do a live show, I can definitely say what I like or don't like, and or I like to think a lot about what is it that I didn't really like about that. In fact, I kind of at one point wanted to go back to school to study criticism, and that's so funny because the arts, like critics, are like their biggest enemy. But that's because here in the Western world, people roll out of bed and decide that they're going to be an art critic. Like, oh, one day I decide I'm going to critique theater now, and they
uh-huh.
don't have any real training. But in Europe, you have to go to university to become a critic. You have to be like heavily knowledgeable of the history of whatever the hell you're critiquing.
And that makes too much sense, I
Yeah,
think.
and you need to like have like, so if I had more skill and able to like speak, I could, I think, be a great critic. I just I don't really, I kind of feel like I'd like to do a course to understand that more. But critics should always be bringing people to the seats, never deterring them from the seats. But at the same time, critics, like some of them, absolute trash. You're just giving me a synopsis of what's happening. And then others are like really cool because they understand with great knowledge this a subject matters. So for me, I critique it based on my knowledge of my subject being performing arts. And um yeah, I just observe the indie scene enough to be able to say like just to make those observations. And yeah, I don't really know what I'm saying, but yeah,
No, I like that
I
you
can't help but critique it, you know.
no, I like
But
that you are trained in theater, so you can essentially critique the theater aspect of it
mhm,
to a degree where it's valid. You know what I mean? As far as you put in the hours, also as wrestling training. Of course, you know maybe you may critique it not as much as you would the theater aspect of it because of course that's where you're rooted in. But then you have someone like Jim Cornette who's just critiquing the wrestling,
mhm, mhm.
and he not only is he talking mad shit about it in a hilarious way, but he's also giving his how he would do it better, how things would be better if it were like this. And it's constructive criticism. It's not just
Mhm,
shitting on the product to where,
mhm.
well, unless it deserves it. He
Well,
does
because
go
it
to
comes
the
from a love and a passion and a
hmm
joy. It's not coming from wanting to rip it apart. Man, I really want to meet him. He's just like he's an historian, is what he is.
hmm
He just knows so much.
well, he's such a big
Like,
part of he was a big part of creating like the history of it. Like he's a part of it. It's amazing. And I remember always
mhm,
watching him as a kid, and you're like, he's just a rich jerk kid with a racket or whatever. And now I watch him as a valid, critic, to the industry, and it's like, wow, like I don't know,
Yeah,
it's amazing. He
I
he
want to
was
meet
a
him.
he was a part of, like, he was at every uh I don't it seemed like he was at every event, like at every part of the wrestling industry, from the beginning to the middle to now, so he
He just
knows
knows
all
what
about it.
works. He just
Yeah.
knows what is going to work. Like, that's
Mhm.
why I'd love to meet him, because I feel like he could form, help as a coach in a way. I work really well with directors and coaches. Being in theater, I never made it alone. I never did one woman shows that I directed or did by myself. I always worked in collaboration with a team. I always worked under the direction of someone I trusted. So I thrive like that. I thrive when I have a mentor or a coach or a director. Right now, I'm a little bit lost in an uncomfortable place because I don't have someone in the wrestling world who's my mentor coach. I'm kind of just
Mhm.
here by myself trying to do everything alone.
Mhm.
But like when I worked with Tatiana, it's great because the performer at the end of the day, the actor has to, they can't see them watch themselves at the end of the day. They need to work under the direction of a person they can trust who pushes them. Like, so working with Jim Cornette, he gave Tammy something that would work for her, and she
Mhm.
thrived with it because he
Yeah,
knew how to guide her and he knew how to coach her.
with her
And that's what I need.
strengths
I
and
don't know who's going to
everything.
be my coach, but Jim Cornette, be my coach. Please tell me, help me. Like, but yeah, funny enough, there's not actors, one of the wrestlers on Dark Side of the Ring, my friend, Ryan Donovan, who played Jeff Jarrett. He is so hilarious, so funny to work with, but he's a guy who always has Jim Cornette's show playing 24/7 in his car. He helped drive me home one day from set, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I just always have Jim playing in the background. He's kind of like a relaxing sound." It's like I love how that's his like relaxing background music. It's just the sweet,
his
sweet sounds of Jim Cornette's voice.
his white noise
Yeah, that's his
to
white
fall asleep
noise.
to.
That's his default. Just like he just doesn't even listen. He just needs to have him kind of there. You know?
Mhm.
I was like, that's hilarious.
And I'm
Um,
sorry to keep you, as long as I've been
oh, it's so
keeping
nice
you.
talking to you. It's nice
Yeah.
talking to you. I just want to show everyone my shirt, by the way, because I can't believe this. I feel like I am the reason why Rodzilla came back. Rodzilla made a comeback this past weekend on AEW in Chicago, and it's crazy because less than 2 weeks ago, okay, I had no idea that anyone in the wrestling scene was even talking about Dennis Rodman, or
No, I
I never
didn't
saw
either.
anybody asking for
Mm-mm.
him to come back. I
Mm-mm.
just one
Mm-mm.
day was like, you know what? I got this sick vintage shirt and I was like, we need Rodzilla back. And I made a post about it, and you can follow me. And I was like, you could see my tweets. I'm like, we need Rodzilla. And then what the hell? Literally less than 2 weeks later, it happened. I'm
Uh-huh.
like actually still kind of I'm so shocked because that's such a crazy synchronicity. If it wasn't like, secretly I want to believe that he saw my comment because I commented on one of Dennis Rodman's posts like 2 weeks ago, being like, we want you back in professional wrestling. Professional wrestling needs you back. And I guess things can happen pretty fast. Again, I'd like to believe it was because of me, but he's back. It's amazing.
It was so
Godzilla.
random, like,
So random.
it's not like he's even topical right now, and it's just like,
No,
"Oh, let's bring him back to
but it
with,
was so
Scissor Me Daddy and all that."
Scissor
I
Me
was like,
Daddy is so fun. Like
"Oh,
that was
yeah."
my favorite part of the AEW shows. Actually, when they came to Toronto for the first, or Canada for their first time ever last year, Scissor Me Daddy was definitely this. That was the that was the star of the show right there. Everyone in the audience had scissors, like chanting. At Yeah, that was. Um, oh man, the planes! I don't know if you can hear them. I'm just distracted because it's like crazy
Uh-huh.
military planes are flying over my house right now for this crazy air show happening on Labor Day here. But
Oh, I
yeah,
wasn't
taking
sure
them.
if Canada did Labor Day. I don't know why I thought I
Yeah,
didn't
today's
know if
Labor
they
Day.
did. Uh
Everything's closed. You know, it's a beautiful sunny day, blue skies. It's gonna be like 30 degrees this week. I'm probably gonna get myself. There's a Toronto Island has a really nice beach here, so I'm probably gonna get there. But yeah, I just think it's wild that Dennis Rodman did an AEW show less than 2 weeks after I was blasting on socials about how we needed him back. And I honestly, I feel like I follow everyone that I should follow in professional wrestling. And if I don't follow someone, tell me who they are. I need to, like, I really try to just stock up on like the best accounts I can. And I didn't see anybody, not a single word, a single peep. Nobody talked about Rodzilla, only me. And then it happened. So you're welcome, everyone. You're all welcome. I'm so
No,
happy. I'd love to meet
yeah.
him.
He's I don't know, like I'm from San Antonio, so when he was part of the Spurs, he was like a big deal cuz he was so like controversial. Like he just did whatever he wanted, and then part of
I
the
love him for
Bulls
that.
too, when he was part of the Bulls and he would just kind of go do whatever he wanted to, and it's just like, man, you can't do that nowadays. Go to
I love
Vegas
him.
for a week, but he's great. No, he's ahead of his time,
Oh
very
yeah,
much ahead of
like
his time.
the fashion industry bows down to him. The queer community, thank you so much. He's been
Hmm.
such a perfect, wonderful, amazing, supportive, like advocate for the queer community and then the wrestling community love you. And then obviously the sports community. He's just a hero in so many different
And he was even
communities.
trying to be. He was just like, it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't out of shock or anything. He just felt like wearing a wedding dress or
Mm-hmm.
doing this and that. He's just like stepping out.
I
He's
love
doing
him
his
so
own
much.
thing.
That's it's just like if I could meet him, that would also be really, 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 really awesome. Because I'm so grateful to him for everything he's done, and I'm so endlessly inspired. So yeah, that's why I rock this because he's a great inspiration, and his involvement in New World Order and professional wrestling is so important and so
Hmm.
cool. So
Hmm.
do yourself a favor and go Google Google Dennis Rodzilla New World Order and enjoy all of the stuff that comes up.
Yeah, just as important as Mike Tyson with DX. Definitely, he
Mm-hmm.
was very important there. I was gonna ask you. I saw one of your posts. Again, I don't mean to go like to your posts again, like some sort of
No, please
stalker,
do. That's
but
what they're out there for. That's why I put that out there for
I
everyone to.
I saw you you wanted to bring back bikini contests and it made me laugh, because
Yeah,
I grew
because
up
it
with
makes
the
people
whole
so mad.
I grew up with the whole, oh, it's the puppies, JR, the puppies, with
Oh my God.
the king and
The
all
king
that.
is
Yeah.
so like, wow. The fact that like the king, yeah, people, oh man, they can't talk like that anymore.
No,
But
no
but at the
way.
same time, it was entertainment, and he um helped these characters like Sable by playing that part. The whole, oh my God, shut up, I'm reading. Shut up, I'm reading with the Playboy with Sable. Honestly, I have no problem with that. It's entertainment, it's a character, it's happy. I personally don't find um, the Attitude Era divas belittling to women in any way. I think it's the exact opposite. I think it's super empowering. If the patriarchy in society doesn't want to see women dancing around in bikinis being hyper feminine, then I want to do that even more. I want to do that even more. If you're so upset about whatever Sable did, then I want that to happen again. I want the bikini contest because I love that history in wrestling, especially in the Attitude Era. I love that that was a thing, and I just love how angry it makes people. They just get up in arms. All these like old-fashioned feminists think it's such a bad image for women, and I'm like, no, I don't need to act like a man, be more like a man, dress like a man, and fight like a man to be important. I can also be I can also be hyper over the top feminine and shove that in your face and not do. Like, I don't know. I don't think every woman in professional wrestling needs to be like a Becky Lynch. Like, I
No, of
think that you
course.
can totally do what these disables were doing. Like, that's my greatest inspiration is
Yeah,
her because
and
she was like a badass. I feel like Vince McMahon never told her to do anything she didn't want to do. I think she did everything that she wanted to do, just like Dennis Rodman. And then, like, man, I guess you're not really supposed to mention her name in wrestling anymore. I guess it's like her name has been like, is like, I don't know. That's what I heard. I heard that for like Hall of Fame speeches and stuff, you just cannot speak Sable because of the whole 1999 suit. Like, she took them to court for sexual
mm,
harassment, millions and millions of dollars suing the WWE. And I think that actually should be a Dark Side of the Ring episode. And 100% I will play Sable in that. Um, just the whole cases around like her story and the sexual harassment
oh yeah, yeah.
scandals in the court case. But I think she was a bad ass, and I want to see that kind of energy again. Like, anyone gets upset about it, makes me want to do it more. But yeah,
No,
bikini
and
contest, let's do it. Because where Sable was, there was more of these like hot, like over the top, extreme women.
oh yeah, you had
Um,
Keebler with the legs. Oh my God, Stacy Keebler, those
yeah.
long legs, and Sable, Trish Stratus. I mean, she's
Well,
making her come.
Jacqueline is what I was thinking
Jacqueline.
of with Sable because wherever Sable was, there was going to be Jacqueline, and you knew you were gonna. I don't know. She just brought another like flavor and fun to the show. Yeah.
Mhm,
And Stacey Keebler, she was a fan that got in, and she was asked. I mean, Tori Wilson too. They were just asked to valet at first, and then they became stars, and I love
mhm,
it. And I know that I was lucky enough to meet Trish Stratus this summer here in when on her visit to Niagara, and she spent a lot of time talking to me, and it was really lovely. And she really treated me like a sister. And I told her what I did, and I told her what I how I was getting into the world, and I feel like she saw a little bit of herself in me, or at least I'd like to think that because I know that she got a lot of heat from some of the female wrestlers in WWE when she started because she wasn't a wrestler, she was a fitness model, and people thought, oh, she doesn't deserve to be here. Who's she? What is she doing?
mm.
But then again, like I said earlier, and I keep repeating, not every single person entering that world needs to be a wrestler.
Well,
You
that's the
need these
same
other
with
personalities.
like Mark Henry or Kurt Angle. They were like Olympic wrestlers, and
Oh
then
yeah, true.
they kind of got fast tracked. You know, especially Mark Henry. I think they just like signed a contract with him like that, and of course people were like, "Oh, why is he getting that?" I think he got like a 10-year deal for 10 million or something just because he was the world's strongest man. You know, and
I mean, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I didn't really talk about the fast tracking thing. I forgot to answer that question. But like, I mean, seeing people like Ronda Rousey and Justin Duke, it's great. It's great. I love that. I love the connections with MMA and UFC and all the. I think that's awesome. All the crossover.
mhm,
Um, but for fast tracking, yeah, it's true. I forgot to answer part of that question. I've seen people suddenly, all of a sudden, out of absolute nowhere, get into wrestling because it's a way to fame, perhaps. That nothing else worked for them, and this is how they're going to get famous. Maybe they don't even care about wrestling. In fact, it's unfortunately the truth that a lot of people in wrestling don't give a shit about wrestling. They just want to get famous, um, or fast track themselves through like I, I've seen people who have zero. They never were involved in the indie scene. They never ever even talked or spoke or posted about wrestling before. Um, Suddenly, like, get into it with no athletic history and went to like a studied at like some sort of dojo for like a year, and now all of a sudden they're like a professional wrestler. And there's part of that I'm just like, I don't know how sustainable that's going to be. That's a little
mhm,
too fast tracky for
mhm.
me. And you also, it's not just about being a fan. Like, I'm not saying you had to have been a fan your whole life. You could have absolutely decided later on in life that you love this. That's great. But it never, like, you cannot replace actual time and experience. So Kurt Angle actually does have time and experience in the
Oh
sport,
yeah.
right?
Mm,
You can't
yeah.
really replace that. Like you have a lot of you even have professors like my teacher, my mentor Tatiana Jennings. She didn't go to school to be a teacher. She just had so much insane experience in theater that she just deserves to teach it. Like Kurt Angle put so much work into that. He deserves to be there. Like, I mean, he
Hmm.
also is great, but like, I
But
don't know, it's interesting.
he did put in the work too, like
Oh,
Kurt
performance,
Angle.
yeah, oh yeah,
Oh
he
yeah.
totally created a thing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I do see some some people in the indie scene where it doesn't feel super authentic to me. It seems really surface. I don't know what or why, like, because they've just kind of popped out of nowhere. And like, there's some indie wrestlers that, like, I don't know. I'm not even gonna go. I just, yeah, some people are set like fast tracking themselves. I don't know how to answer this question because
Yeah. No, I
I don't know how
get
to
you.
answer the question. Wow, I'm
Without
trying.
being mean.
I don't want to be an
No.
ass. Yeah, I
No,
mean,
I get you. Um, and how'd you feel about Trish Stratus coming back? You know, I don't think she had anything to prove as far as you know, she was already a legend. She's in the Hall of Fame, blah blah blah. And now she looks better than she did before. It's
she looks better than
crazy.
ever. It's
Yeah.
insane. I'm
Yeah.
like, wow, bow down. Like,
Yeah. Do you think she came back, like, do you think she wanted to prove that she could wrestle, or if what do you think I don't mean for you to think what
mm,
she's thinking or try to, like, you know, inhabit her mind, but why do you think she maybe came back? Was it like, oh hey, there's a paycheck, or I want to prove to people that I could wrestle and I want to have this match with Becky Lynch in a cage? Jesus, I was
that's
like,
so good.
Jesus, dude.
Well, I mean, she already did start, she already was wrestling back in the 90s, but and yeah, like I would love to, like I said, train enough to be able to do some cool spots as a manager. But I think just she genuinely loves it.
Mhm.
That's her community. That's her best friends, like Lita, and like I got to meet Lita too. And my only answer to that is I don't think it's. I mean, yes, we definitely love paychecks, but I do think
Oh
she's
yeah.
just really gifted there, and that's um, she's such a great leader and role model for women. And I think she knows the industry so well that like, I mean, I guess Shawn Michaels is now in charge of the NXT talent.
Hmm.
I'd love to be able to talk to him too
Oh
about
yeah.
a position, but these are people who understand the industry and you can't take that experience from them. And I just think at the end of the day, when I watch Trish, and even the way she is with her fans, she's just coming from a genuine love of it. She just is, it's a passion. And that's what I see. I don't see any other reason other than she genuinely loves what she's doing. And that's why she's so great at it. I
But
don't
yeah,
know.
it trips me out how she looks better than ever, and how many years ago was that where she looked like, oh my god, like
But
so
yeah,
sexy, so everything, and now she's as fit, geez, as
I
she's
think
ever been.
totally. And there is, and she does have something to prove. And I think that's amazing as a woman post 30, because in the world today, if you're older than Leonardo DiCaprio's tastes, it's like you're a haggard old lady. And it's like, it's so, it's so fucking awesome to see a woman so just like, she's just starting from fresh again. Who knows how long we're going to see this run go? Like, and I love that. You can start in your 30s, your 40s, your 50s. I don't even care. Like, shove it in, especially like she's shoving her power and strength and like into the face of this society. And having something to prove. Yeah, proving that being a certain too old age, a woman especially, can be a sex symbol, can be um, the strongest, can be the leader, can be the fiercest, can be the one that everyone is still chanting the name of. Like, thank you, Trish. Thank you, Trish Stratus. As a woman, I thank her for this. So yeah, she does have something to prove, and she's doing it, and it
Yeah,
comes from her heart.
and you could tell she's
Mhm.
putting in the work. She's. I saw some of that match with her and Becky Lynch, and it's like, dang, it looked good. Like,
It does look
consider,
good. She's
yeah,
great.
yeah.
She's amazing. Yeah, Trish Stratus. I hope I'll get to meet her again. Really, and my fellow Canadian. Um, and it's so fun when people tell me that I kind of I remind her remind them of her. I remember at the AEW shows last year when they came for their first time. This sweet family, this husband and wife and their daughter sat in front of me both nights just by chance. Like we didn't even plan this. I had different seats, and both nights I sat behind these people,
Hmm.
this lovely family, and both nights they were like, or the second night they were like, "Hey, we wanted to tell you, but the first night we thought you looked like Trish Stratus, and we just want to tell you again, like you look like Trish Stratus." I don't know. I was dressed in a certain way, but it was just so. I was so happy. I was like, "That is the highest compliment, guys. Thank you so much. Like, what if you just told me I look like the hot ass bitch Trish Stratus?" But yeah, that made me happy. So maybe I can maybe play her younger sister one day or something.
Oh
I don't
yeah,
know.
definitely.
In
And
something. I don't know.
so, and this is kind of like an oddball question. I know acting's your passion, you're trained and all that. What are your opinions on AI and the way it's going right now with the whole script writing, the CGI? Have you ever used it? Do you plan to ever utilize it? Do you think it's a bane to society or to your, passion, your career? Do you think that's gonna? What are your opinions on it, on
I think
artificial intelligence?
I think it's amazing. I worked with a woman, so Tatiana was really into like digital futuristic art, and like we did a lot of like shows that required 3D mapping and a lot of really cool technology. In fact, my director Tatiana studied at OCAD, which is the art, um, one of the biggest art schools here, um, the Ontario College of Art and Design, I believe that's what it stands for. And she studied a program called Digital Futures, which she then brought into our work, which is like, the gloves that when you move it, it like changes the music or the sounds. Like, but that's not AI,
Mm,
but like just in general technology, I absolutely love it. I just feel like so like for artificial intelligence helping with design, amazing. We can use this to assist in our creative design. But when it completely controls it, no, like I 100% stand with the actors fighting for their rights, 100% stand for the writers who are not being paid enough. First of all, it's just the writers are just not being paid enough, period. And
hmm
the CEOs and the heads of in Hollywood are making way too much money to make that okay.
hmm
Um, but the actors are concerned with AI because yes, now we have the technology to take Arnold Schwarzenegger's face and put it on a younger body, and that looks realistic. And now we can kind of do that with anyone, and that's like
hmm
no, not okay. I'm not okay with that. And I don't know, too much CGI and too much like I don't think it looks good anyways. It just like I love the original Blade Runner. I love like real set, real puppetry, real lighting. I don't, it has a quality that is irreplaceable.
hmm
Like even Guillermo del Toro's Pan's Labyrinth, you get a little bit of CGI, I guess, with the eyeball on the hands, but most of what he's doing is real puppet, real lighting, real set. Everything's real. Like he made it.
Practical and all
Yeah,
that.
it's
Yeah.
not CG based out of CGI, and I think that personally, aesthetically, and artistically, I have so much respect for people like Guillermo del Toro, who I'd also love to work with, who's also in Toronto, who I hope I can work with one day.
Oh wow, there's a
Um,
lot of people up there in Toronto, huh? Jeez.
yeah, Guillermo del Toro, he is, yeah. So again, I don't know. I guess for people who don't really understand what the actors are so upset about regarding AI, the best way to explain it is in the Black Mirror episode that has recently come out called um, Joan is Awful. I think that's what the episode's called, with
Hmm.
Salma Hayek. It's kind of explains what's going on there with AI taking over actors and the acting. Like, yeah, it's pretty scary. My answer is technology is amazing and beautiful, and I think artificial intelligence is an excellent tool that we can use, but it's not okay if it's completely taking over an actor's job. Like, I'm not even interested in that. I'm not even in let's see how it goes. Let's actually
Yeah,
see
yeah.
how that goes. And it's not going to be sustainable because you cannot truly recreate the authenticity of a living human, breathing human being. Like, so 100% stand with all of the strikes that are happening. But that means that we have no union films being filmed right now. Thank God Dark Side of the Ring is still able to be was still able to happen this year. Um, but yeah, it's been a quiet summer here in Toronto. Usually I have a shit ton of actors in the city, a lot of people here. Like, it's really fun when the strikes aren't happening. But I don't really I don't mind the hold if it means saving this industry from crumbling because of artificial intelligence.
Well, that and they have a very valid argument. Like you said, they're making pennies to these CEOs that are making billions
Billions
probably. And
of dollars.
all they want is like a few more pennies. Like
Oh yeah.
in all
Um,
honesty.
My little earpiece just died, so I hope you can still hear me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, the I guess uh, A24, the indie film, like, so I guess they actually agreed to the conditions that the people on strike, the writers and the actors were asking for. So if a smaller independent, and even though they're really big company can do this, why can't the bigger ones do this, right? Like, it's they're really not asking for a lot. It's just a
Mm-mm.
shitty power um,
It's
game
greed.
right now.
It's just greed. Yeah.
So, yeah, it is pretty scary, but it's also like, why are you picking a fight with the most known faces who are very, very, very good at speaking in the world? Like, you're picking a fight with A-list actors here. It's not a good fight, not a good choice.
Mhm.
People with great followings, great speaking skills, well-known faces and names. So you're just making yourself. They're just making themselves look silly. So I guess it's like over 100 days now the strike's been going. So,
Jeez.
but I do look forward to that lifting, and I really look forward to people. I really hope that the writers and the actors, get what they want. There's an airplane. Because yeah, I really want somewhere. I want it to be alive again. I want films to be happening again. I want to have those people in the city again. I'm really looking forward to that. But yeah,
No, definitely. I hope they get what they deserve, like cuz they deserve it. They're literally the backbone, the backstage, all that, you know what I mean? Like an
it is
actor's
scary
only.
though. Like, an AI program can like write an entire like fully detailed story now. They can create full images. It's really
Mhm.
crazy. But again, that technology is awesome. It just needs to be used in a way that complements and like real human being creation and real
Yeah.
writing, like,
Yeah, it's the
not
tool.
replacing.
It's a tool, it's not a full machine. And I always hearken AI to because I've heard the AI write a joke, and it knows how to write a joke, but it doesn't know why it's funny. You know what I mean? Like
It's
there's
yeah.
no there's no soul to it.
There's no
If you
soul.
know, if you want to go that route with souls and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, that's the way I feel.
You can never the AI will never know the pain of human existence.
Hmm.
It won't know
No,
truly the joy or pain of
yeah,
the complexities of what it is to be alive. So it's just going to be flat and empty, really. And I hope, and I don't want to see that happening for mainstream movies and television series. It's just going to be a bunch of trash. We're just going to be subjected to a bunch of trash if that's the route we're going here.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
not
And
paying
there's
real
already
writers and like relying on artificial intelligence. Like, ew.
there's already enough trash too that's allowed on TV
Oh man,
for it to get
it's getting
even
trash.
trashier.
It's gonna get worse.
And last question, and again, you don't need to answer this. I just thought it'd be something to talk to you about. What's your opinion on CM Punk? I know that's the big deal right now. Are you on his side? Are you on, I guess, quote unquote, the elite side? Do you think Tony Khan kind of went a little too I fear for my life? How do you feel about that?
Honestly, um, as a woman, it's really, really, really hard for me to pretend a lot of the shitty things he said about women in the past don't exist. Like there's recordings of CM Punk talking about the bikini girl. I don't know if you want to Google this, but there's like he's ripping like in the worst, most misogynistic, shitty way, ripping apart and belittling this woman that would like he refers to her as the bikini girl. So one of my friends, a female and female uh, wrestling fan that I'm friends with, brought this to my attention, and since I noticed that, I was like, man, I really can't erase this from my brain now. So once I watched CM Punk talking about this bikini girl, I was like, wow, this guy just doesn't respect women. He's actually like, in my opinion, like must be a piece of shit if that's how you want to talk about women. And sure, it's the past, and sure, maybe he's different now, but I've never really heard him, talk about that or apologize about for that. So it's of no surprise that he's rubbed many people in the world the wrong way. And I am on the elite side, and I believe they made the right decision. I haven't followed all the details regarding this. I've never been a massive CM Punk fan, to be honest. I just, as a woman, don't feel like it. Again, it's really hard to see some footage of the way he speaks of women, especially the bikini girl, and then be on his side. Maybe he's important for the work he's done, but I just don't have respect after that, and I have a feeling the elite um, knows even more that than they're not telling us. Perhaps they haven't exposed everything, but I have if Tony Khan says he felt like his life was in danger, I don't. I think you're a shitty person if you don't believe him or make fun of him for saying that. It takes a lot for a man in today's world to come across as weak and say he was scared.
Hmm.
So I'm I think that that's actually really important that men can be vocal about this and not try to play tough and not try to play I wasn't afraid. Um, I believe that they made the right decision. I feel like wherever CM Punk's involved, it's just like bad energy. And I don't, in wrestling, yes, we have a show of violence, but I don't want the behind the scenes to feel violent for people.
Hmm.
Right.
Hmm.
And especially as a woman, again, the bikini girl way he spoke about her, that was violent to me as a woman. It makes me feel super uncomfortable. So no, I'm not a massive, no, I'm not really, no, I'm not on his side.
Yeah,
you know,
I see a quote here, CM Punk. The point is, and this sounds real degrading. but like most women in the business are rats. I mean, that's a hard fact of life that he eventually realized. And it was like she got in the business. And at the time, she was like, "Oh, I want to be a wrestler. I want to train." I never saw her get in the ring.
Mhm.
Like it just never happened. And when we did get in the ring, all it took was a good forearm shot, and then that was it. She was done. She was always kind of kept her in check. Colt Cabana starts laughing, but she would be bikini girl. She would wear a bikini, walk around the ring when the show started, and take people's ring jackets and sunglasses. So
Yeah,
yeah,
he said that they used her to be the driver. Like he said they used this girl just to drive them around. They didn't even know her name. He refused to even get to know her actual name. He just called her that. And I think another thing he kind of alluded to, like, everybody just wanted to fuck her, and she kind of was just like this. I just felt like he talked about her in this belittling manner, and in my opinion he painted a picture that they used her for driving around and used her for like sexual stuff. Like, I don't,
yeah,
it
yeah.
didn't, as
I
soon as
see it.
I saw this.
Groping, and gas, and
Yeah, so
yeah.
it really just 100% left a really gross bad taste in my mouth. I do not like think it's masculine or manly or cool at all to talk in such a degrading way towards women. So yeah, why I want to bring bikini contests back is another reason, is because I want to like take the bikini girl and make her important where she was made to be so, but like a piece of trash
Hmm, hmm.
from the mouth of CM Punk. Like, I just can't get rid of that footage out of my head. So I'm not a fan. Um,
No, no, I completely understand from
yeah.
that point of view, and it. I I might have heard this story vaguely. Whenever you mentioned it, I'm like, okay, I see the shoot interview video, so I kind of recall it. But yeah, that's obviously kind of been buried with all these other controversies going
Yeah.
on
Just like
nowadays.
kind of like bad energy too much
Yeah,
with that one. So I'll, to answer your question, say that I'm on the elite side.
and do you think maybe you could play Karen Jarrett when it gets to the dark side of the ring? CM Punk.
I would love to. Just throw a wig on me. Just throw a wig on me. I'll do. That's what they do too. The costume and wig department's outrageous. That's like most fun part on that set is the costume department. I just like want to hang out there. They're the coolest girls. They have like the Ric Flair, the Road Warriors. They have like the craziest. It's like a magical land. That if they threw a wig on me, I'd play Karen Jarrett. I'd be so honored to do that.
You could do
Um,
the Texas Chainsaw Massacre match where she just got blood
mhm.
all over her and everything, and
Sick. Oh yeah, she's great. I love her. She's really great. I'd love to meet her too.
she's
So
very attractive too, and
so hot.
like very like in a business way. The way
Hmm.
she carries herself. I don't know. She's a valet. Like it.
Yeah, I
I
know
see
she has the
her and I'm like,
professionalism, and she puts on the like clean management uh, role, but
mhm.
she's fully understands.
It's like sexy business. Like
Sexy
if that's
business girl.
still, yeah, yeah. If that's still around, and Jeff
But
Jarrett
again, like I
is
was saying,
is
like
uh-huh.
the look of being so clean cut and put together, and this like business look is so punk and badass to me. It's actually in the punk scene. You see a lot of takes on the Wall Street business look, but they'll, grunge it out or like fuck it up. Like business ties and suits, but then like piercings and tattoos, and the like, um, it's like a fuck you to the Wall Street business men. But in wrestling, it's such a, like I'm repeating myself, but it's such a great juxtaposition to have this clean cut image inside of a violent debauchery of like chaotic, explosive, yeah, violence.
Hmm.
So I love that because it's cool. It's like it adds class and structure and it's fun.
Yeah, because she's carrying herself like a businesswoman, very sexy business, but then hitting people with guitars and
I love it.
ta taking, hair bumps, the hair pullings and all that. It's I don't know. She knows how how to how to
I'd
be
love her
that
to train
character.
me actually.
Yeah.
She is, yeah, um, I fully 100% love when she's out there. Um,
Yeah. She looks
because
like
I
she
like it.
knows, like, a lot about the business, like, a lot of aspects, not just 1 or 2 things. She looks like she actually cares about it. And then Jeff Jarrett looks better than ever too. Like
Hmm.
these older guys, even Billy Gunn, I'm like, God, how do you look better than you did in the Attitude Era? Like now? It's
Seriously.
crazy.
Yeah, Tommy Dreamer just did the last Impact shows that happened here last weekend. His whole speech that he did, if anyone watches that, he really talks about ageism in the industry. And I think he spoke so eloquently about that, being an older person and being shit on for the weight that he's put on and for his age. And I actually think the um, all of the words that he had regarding that. Um, it was the Emergent show, I believe, on August 20, was it 8th? Anyways, it was the last show they just did in Toronto here last week, on the 28th of the
Hmm.
Monday. Was, I think people should listen to that. I actually thought it was really well uh, said, and it speaks to exactly to that. Like, um, the older guys that are still going, and they totally should be. I think it's awesome. They're killing it. They're amazing. Jeff Jarrett does look better than ever. And Karen Jarrett's such a badass. And they're not like 20 years old. And I'm kind of sick and tired of everybody being 20 years old. Like, I don't need all of the stars to be children. I just don't, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
No, we
you know?
need some of that old blood in there that
Mm-hmm.
know know how to talk through a match, because you have like what do they call it, where it's scripted now, where they run through it in the back or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But these are the athletes that know how to, like, oh, let's call an audible because something happened, you're injured, oh, let's change it up, oh, the crowd is acting different, let's do this spot instead of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lost art, really.
They know, yeah, exactly. They know how to work the energy they get from a crowd, and they're always going to be different. That's the really cool thing about live performance is it's so heavily based on the audience energy. Yeah, let's say
Mhm.
you have like, let's say I've done shows where there's not even a lot of people, but you still give 100%. You never do less because there's less people. The show never is less, but um, the energy will, you could do the same. Like for me in theater, we had the same thing that we would do every night or for the whole run for like a month, but every show would be different because you're constantly evolving, working little details, and the audience is going to be different every single night. So let's say I'm not allowed to completely change my spot, I'm not allowed to completely change, but I can approach it with like, I always feel like a good trick if you feel like you're losing your audience attention is to get way more specific and way more technically detailed and get like, I don't know what it is. Uh, there's like it's hard to explain the way to to get your
and and
audience's
and
attention.
and the way you're describing, is it like in the wrestling ring or in the theater? Like
I
what
guess I don't know. It's like I don't even know what I'm trying to say. Like it's like a mental challenge when because you might think you did a great show when it wasn't. You might think you did a bad show when it was great. You never know how to judge yourself as the performer. I just feel like as for the audience energy, yeah, you have to be so aware of when you're losing them or not, and you do change your movement and your energy in your way or like the delivery of your line. Things will change based on the state of your audience, and wrestling is the it's probably the only sport or show or entertainment or production that the audience is its own character. The
Oh
audience is
yeah.
so important. I've never seen an audience be more important in anything than it is in professional wrestling.
Hmm.
They are a part of the show. The wrestling fans, they they have it's so fun because they have their bunch of chants and things that they do. There's a role for them. You don't just sit there. It's so fun actually. So wrestling fans and the audience is literally like one of the most important aspects of the whole show.
Hmm.
But yeah,
No,
like knowing
that
how
was
to work them
definitely
is a skill.
that was definitely made apparent during the pandemic when you couldn't really have crowds, or in WWE you had those screens or whatever, which they tried, but yeah, no, they were
Remember the screens? That's so funny. You
they
got to
had the
pay to like,
screens, and they were
yeah,
piping in the cheers and
yeah.
the boos and all that, and it's like, I don't
They
know,
did it though.
just
That's such a weird time in wrestling history. The
uh-huh.
pandemic wrestling,
Uh-huh. It is
crazy.
very. They tried. I'll give them that, but it was something like, you tried.
Mhm.
You held on. You held on, and then persevered. But yeah,
That's
it was.
so crazy to think about. I just thinking about it again. Like, I'm only recently has the masks been lifted in the production of film and TV. Like even when we first started filming Dark Side of the Ring earlier this year, everyone had to wear masks except for the actors. Still really, really strict in those industries. But yeah, the fact that they did pandemic like social distance wrestling shows is crazy to think
Hmm.
about. I love
Hmm.
that they tried that. And I love what is possible with Zoom and FaceTime and being able to act. I think that technology is amazing now that we can be
Oh
talking to
yeah.
each other, that I could do it. Like during the pandemic, I was able to do movement workshops with a dancer from one of the greatest dance companies in Japan. We had a big time difference, but the technology allowed me to in my own home in isolation work with someone from Japan doing like dance like training workouts. So it is kind of cool what we discovered was possible during that time. But to have live audiences back is so amazing. It's so fun and so
No,
important.
like you said, it's important because it's its own character,
Yeah,
especially in wrestling.
oh yeah, the wrestling audience, they're their
Hmm.
own thing.
Hmm.
And yeah, the wrestler and the old guys are the people who know how to work them. Even like Sam Adonis, who is a new face in wrestling, is so brilliant at working the audience. It's brilliant to watch. Um, but yeah, a total skill. Anyways, it's so lovely to talk to you. I feel like I need my energy drink now. My
I
coffee's done. I don't have
I
any
know
more.
mine ran out earlier too. I was like, "Oh, we'll go an hour," and it's like, "Oh, wow. Like it was real easy going, nice talking to you. You're so
So
great."
easy to talk to you, Lorenzo. Like, I'm
Yeah.
definitely going to talk to you again. Um, I also was like, I'm shocked that it's been 2 hours. I might need to maybe go. I have to go to a family event today. It's a
No,
family
yeah,
birthday
definitely. I
event. Um, but absolutely would love to talk to you again. You're so
no,
lovely to talk to.
yeah, definitely. I'd love to talk to you about, any other projects you have coming up, or even just wrestling in general. It was just great to talk to you about, you have so many things going on that are interesting, whether it be the acting, the athletic playing. I'd love get to hear more about that, once you do get that going. But yeah, thank you so much for your time today. I don't want to keep you any longer because I'm sure you have a lot of things to do. But where can everyone find you? I have some of your links there, laceyk.com, your Instagram, your Twitter.
Yeah. So, for everyone listening, you can follow me at Lacey Kay. So that's LACEYKAY. Um, on Instagram at Lacey Kay on. Oh, sorry. No. Oh, I'm doing it wrong. I'm doing it wrong. Sorry. Take that back. I just told you my handle wrong. It's real Lacey Kay. So real Lacey Kay at real Lacey Kay on Twitter, on Instagram, or you can just go to laceyk.com and all of my links will show up there. And it would be a pleasure to meet some new fans, talk to new people, and throw anything at me that you think I should be following or listening to. I'm always happy to be exposed to more awesome, cool people in this world. So come,
No, is great.
reach out is what I'm trying to say, you know?
Yeah, no, it was so great talking to you, and like I said, yeah, I'd definitely love to talk to you again about any other projects you might have coming up, or just anything wrestling,
Oh, I will let
anything.
you know. There are things. I'm not allowed to talk about them right now, though, but there are things. Don't worry, we have things. I'm
That's great.
not, again, they're undercover at the moment, like, but it's
Well,
happening.
I'm glad. No, you deserve all of that, and I hope nothing but more success comes your way. You really put in the work, and that shows. You deserve it.
Thank you. Thank you, Lorenzo, for having this platform for people like me. And thank you for all the work that you're doing in this industry and in the arts and in wrestling. So,
Well,
yeah.
no, thank you just as equally, and yeah, we'll stop there. Thank everyone for listening, and take care. Bye.